Hello, everybody. This is Laura's flexibility class. We're starting with just lengthening the whole train of fascia from one side of the body and then the other side. So reaching out and up, lengthening out, feeling one foot on the floor, feeling your hand reach into the ceiling. And then the next thing I want you to do is take one hand up and just spiral it in and spiral it out. And let your body respond however it responds to that. So there's that yogi who has his hand reaching up to God. And what that is that he's kept his hand there for so long that all of his tissue has stopped moving anymore. So that's what your fascia does. Whatever you do, it helps you do more of that. So getting that spiral. And as I'm spiraling, I'm also letting my body move forward and backwards. So we were just talking about the three-dimensionality of our fascia, and it's really our fascia that's holding us. Change it to the other side, same thing. Spiraling, bringing awareness from your fingertips down through your forearm, through your upper arm, into your armpit, and then into your torso, all the way down to the floor to your foot. So you're just bringing this whole fascial train into awareness. And then we're going to work with some side. So that was, well, let's go. So we played with our vertical. We're going to go horizontal side. So just stretch one side and stretch the other. Reach it out one way, reach it out the other. As you're doing those reaches, feel how the movement moves through you. Like, is there a ripple from your foot up through your spine to your head? That is all the movement of your fascia and your torso and everything else. Now we're going to take it out to the sides and we're just going to spiral those. So we're working actually with this upper chest, lung, and heart mobility as we're working with the tissue in our arms. And then shake it out whenever you need to, let it go. So you just come into a release. We don't need to stay there for a long time, but let's keep going back. Spiraling, fingers into wrist, into your radius and ulna, bones of the forearm, into your humerus, into all the fascia around it and the joints, all the way up into your collarbones and scapula, and let that go again, shake it out. And let's circle the shoulders now. So big circles with the shoulders. Yeah, so before I started recording, I actually started the class and I was talking about how three-dimensional the tissue in our body is, how three-dimensional the fascia is. So if we imagine this internal matrix, change direction. And you can slow it down to just bringing your awareness into the sensation in your neck and shoulders. Right, so we're warming it up. We're getting some flow and some fluid support for the tissues in our body. And then shake that out, let it go. And let's take our hands on our hips and just chest forward and then chest back. So as the chest goes forward, you're moving your whole spine. We're going with the sagittal forward, backward now. We did our up, down, we did some side, and we're going forward, backward. And you could, I'm going to show you from the side, you could do this with bent knees. Letting your head get in on the action, thinking of this movement freeing up the whole spine in the forward, backward. From your tail to your head. I like to include your cranium in your spine, even though really technically your spine would end there. But if we imagine it's the whole thing, head to tail, it's helpful. So let's get down onto the ground and work some more with that forward, backward, just to warm up our body again from the ground. So here, I'm going to take my hands behind me. If you have any kind of wrist or shoulder issues and you're better off laying down doing this, you can do that. But I'm going to push forward and up and then fold back into the floor. Again, this is that sagittal forward, backward movement in my body. Pushing through. And as I'm pushing through, I'm warming up the hamstrings, warming up my back body, getting some blood flow into those muscles, the fascia, some movement in the bones and joints. Right, so as we're bearing weight and we're changing the demand on our body, Leslie, take it as easy as you need to. Really go like half of what I'm doing or less. As we change the demands on our body, our tissue and bone and organs, even fascia, form around that. So we're going to take this all the way down to laying on the floor. And from the floor, let's just go with small movement in the spine. And you in this room are all very open-minded people. So one thing we want to think about flexibility is also the flexibility of our mind. Like if we're rigid and holding a lot, it's not going to be easy to get flexibility into our body either, because like we keep tensing up around things. So we want to find some sense of fluidity around existing. All right, and then from there, if you're up for it, taking your pelvis up and then mobilizing your pelvis around. So you could do a figure 8, you could do circles, you could just shift from side to side. This could be not so high, or you could go quite high. And what we're doing is getting that 3-dimensional matrix of fascia and muscle to work together as we move. But we're really warming up the back of the body more. Breathing into it, and I am massaging across the top of my upper traps, the top of my shoulders as I roll from side to side. And if I let my head free up a bit more, so I'm not rigidly holding that, I can look one way, I can look the other, I get even more fluidity in there. Let's bring that back down and just work for some freedom in the spine. So, and the torso. One thing Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen says is like, and I'm making, this is my version of her version. She says, people want to have a flexible spine. It's not going to be the spine, it's all the stuff around the spine that also needs to soften. So we need to not just focus on the thing we think we're stretching, but focus on everything around it as well. So that all those little intervertebral muscles are having some space, our organs are having some movement. The long, big muscles up and down our back are getting some movement. So we can just play with mobilizing our spine from the inside and allowing everything around it to have some freedom. And are you holding your neck? What's your tongue doing? What's happening around your pelvis? Are you squeezing your butt? Are you engaging in your pelvic floor? Soften everything as much as you can. So there's fluid movement and easiness. Yeah, we're moving towards easiness in the body, head, tail easiness. And then we can come back up and come together and start to get into a little bit more specific stretchy things. So let's start here with, let's just do a little walk forward and backward. So as you're walking forward and backward, a little butt walk, organs are moving, spine is moving, tissue is moving. Taking it back also. Hips, you can feel that, like the whole movement, pelvis, hips, pelvic floor, right? This is a very anti-incontinence activity that we could do. Without having to think about squeezing and engaging, we're moving those muscles, we're moving those tissues, and change direction whenever you need to. So just forward and backward. And as you're in your forward and backward, feel that rippling up and down through your body. So we're doing this pelvic walk. We're massaging out the back of the hips, maybe the back of the hamstrings, or maybe you have a very bony butt. I have a very bony butt. My sit bones are like grinding into the floor. And then we're going to take it into a forward fold. Now in your forward fold, there's a few different things here to think about. One, we've got the stretch through the back of the hamstrings. If you're feeling extremely tight there, bend your knees. Let that be as easy as possible so that you're not like, but you're in a position that's like, oh, okay, this is okay. I can kind of hang out here. So we're thinking of that as happening. Now, if I go with a flat back forward, I'm really going to get up into this back of my hamstrings. If I've got very open hamstrings and I don't spend a lot of time, like if I don't work to round my spine also, I'm going to get tighter in this curl of the spine. Who has that? I do, because my hamstrings are so open. It's so easy to do this. So I don't get the stretch that most people are getting in the back of their body when they do that forward fold, right? Because I can go forward, easy, piece of cake. So usually when we have a really extreme open area in one part of our body, some other part of our body is a little bit tight. So that can be up for me in my shoulders, neck, and head. So what I want you to do in this forward fold is just start to figure out, where are you tight? Where's the restriction? Sometimes when I've been teaching at the gym, people say, I'm so tight. Can you help me? And I'm like, where are you tight? They're like, I don't know. Like, well, what are you feeling in your body? So first we want to feel in, and then just take it into that, breathing into that. Where do you feel it? And for me, in this forward fold, I feel it up here in my neck and my shoulders. And if I pull back a little bit, I can get more of a stretch up there. So we want to think of the whole, from the sole of our feet, up the back of the leg, through the back of the body, all the way around to our head, maybe coming even over our face to our tongue. But that whole train is working somewhat together. And once you've kind of figured it out a little bit, let yourself adjust, micro move, walk around, bend your knees, straighten your knees, just feel like you're pulling on a sock, right? And you want to get that sock on your foot so it's all even. So that's what you're doing with your fascia here. You're just letting it adjust, breathing into it. Yeah, I'm going to say that generally when we're in stretches, we're going to affect more change if we micro move in those stretches. If we just sit there and hold it, stuff is going to happen too. But when we move, there's more of a sense of awareness through our whole body. So tuning into that, adding some little bits of movement to, like for me, I really need it to be up here in my neck and shoulders. For other people, it might be more down there in your legs, or waking up the feet, waking up the toes, feeling into that. And then when you're ready, coming out of it and softening. And let's take it back onto the floor. So we've spent all this time in this forward, backward, sort of sagittal stretch. Let's lay down and recuperate with some spiraling. So letting the knees fall from side to side. Very easy and relaxed. We're not trying to engage much. We're trying to soften and melt. So I like to think of opening one leg, and then closing the other, opening one leg and then closing the other. So I'm getting through the middle, get a little inner thigh stretch, and then a massage through my butt of the side that I'm rolling across. And then taking that into a full roll across your back. So rolling from one side to the other. So we went from a spiral now to a a right versus left roll across the body. In Laban, we call that homolateral movement. One side moves and then the other, right versus left. And we're going to start to open up in the middle. So we can take our time stretching, open and close. Oh, what was it you said, Terry? Go into your happy baby and then reach out, go into outer space. Yeah, so think of this as you're rolling almost through a happy baby, but you're just opening out, outer space, inner space, expansive body. And think of reaching, reach, open, and then soften and close, taking your time. So this should be sort of massaging out your shoulders, massaging out your back. As we're also getting this inner thigh stretch through the center. Open. Balancing the idea of active and passive. So we're really in the middle between being passive and active. Like I'm really passive in my role, but then I'm kind of active as I try to stretch and open this up. I'm melting into the floor, pouring myself from side to side, really dropping down. But then as I come into this middle of opening up, blossoming open, and then I fold it back in. Radiating out through the middle and then fold it in. And then let's come back in onto our backs. And we're going to do some stuff for our hands and wrists. I think most people are probably spending too much time using their arms without enough recuperation time. So let's just think of, like, for some reason, you know how horses can curl their hand under their hand, curl their hoof underneath? They do that prancing. Just let your hands prance. So one's coming in, one's going out. As if your arm were a horse's foreleg or the front legs. And then let that go. And you can face your palms towards each other, open and close this way. So it's like this. Now I'm starting to feel this in my wrists. We're going to shake it out and we're going to grab on to our wrist with one hand, making a cuff and just pulling the tissue, pulling the fascia away from the hand. And then I'm going to move my hand. Finding things on my body. Shake it out whenever you need to release and come back in again. So this is the too much time texting, too much time on your computer, too much time painting or scraping or whatever you're doing in the house that you're working on, Terry. Yeah, giving yourself. And then one more thing we're going to do is we're going to hold on and you're going to mobilize your hand in and out. And I'm kind of holding the tissue. I'm going to come in closer. Oops, just scared the pants off of my cat, who doesn't wear pants. So that's a real feat. I'm holding on and I'm spiraling in and out so that this fascia in my wrist and forearm gets a lot of movement between the two bones of my forearm, my radius and ulna. So when my arm is open, the two bones are, or when my palm is up like that, the two bones are parallel. When I twist my hand, the radius moves over the ulna. Yeah, so we're just trying to give some love to the space between those two bones. What is this for? The flexibility of your hand and wrist. And not just the flex, let's take the flex and the ability and put the ability at the forefront. We want them to be able so they can do things, right? And so the flex part is just to give us more ability. That's a weird analogy, but other side, grabbing on. Oh, if I just hold there and move my wrist, I feel so much stuff right in here. So you can either pull or not, like pulling the fascia away is going to lengthen it out also. It's almost like you're putting on a glove. And I've been typing way more than usual because I've been putting subtitles on some of my videos. I'm trying to make them all so that they're closed captioned. And so, yeah, this is, I got the feels in there. So then you're going to grab and rotate that arm in and out. Think of your hand like seagrasses. So there's still some freedom and mobility in there. That's it, nice. And you may find like the different sections of your forearm. So there's one kind of weirdness going on for me in this section. And then there's another one up here, right at the top of that belly of the muscle. And when we want to change tissue, like if something's going on in our arm, usually the places closer to the insertion where there is more fascia are going to be the places that are going to, we can affect change more. So playing with your arm, feeling that space between the two. So there is a sheath of fascia in there, and then there's also a bunch of muscle. And I've injured it before from pole dancing, and this is how I healed it. So, and it took some time, but I never stopped. And shake it out, let it go, let it go, let it go. And let's roll up to seated. And we'll do just a little bit more with that. So we've gone really back body, hamstrings, arms and forearms. We've done a little bit of shoulders and we've done all that spiraling mobility. I'm just going through the list in my head to see what I feel like we need. I do feel like we should be doing some quad stretching, but let's do just a little bit more hands. Since now we've gotten them all fluid and hydrated, warmed up, a little bit of stretch, let's come onto our hands and knees. So coming onto all fours. And freeing up the spine. So this is very continuum-y, letting us find some fluidity. Again, we did it laying down, we've done it standing up, now from all fours, quadruped. Head, tail freedom, finding the support of your own hands, your own body, the support of your legs, and letting yourself free up your patterning. So if you feel like you need to come back to something that's really familiar, you can always come into a cat-cow. And as you're in whatever movement you're doing, listen into the different parts of your body, like feel into, how are my hands? How are my wrists? What's going on in my shoulders? What's going on in my neck? What about my face? Is there extra tension in there? So we're just shining the light of awareness to different parts of your body to feel into what's happening. Could I use more support in there? Could I find a way to be more supportive myself in there, right? Like if my shoulders are all weird, that's not the best position of support. At the same time, I do want to have some possibility. So I don't want to lock them in to just being like this all the time. I want to have the freedom for them to move in different ways. Good. And let's come off of that and just release the hands. Let the arms wave and ripple a little bit. So think of this as very fluid integration. Takes no effort. It's almost like the water in your body is moving itself, or it's waving, softening, easy and loose. And then we'll come onto our sides for a quad stretch. So onto your side, head can be on your arm or in your hand, either way. And you're going to grab your ankle and just take your knee back. If you can't do that easily, you can grab your sock and try it with, like if you pull your sock off a little bit, you can try that. So that is one version. Once you get the leg back there, you're just going to slightly turn your knee in and then slightly turn it out. Or your heel is coming up and then your heel is going down. That's exactly it. So think of that top knob of your femur head, your thigh bone up here is doing this. Yeah. Hang loose. Hang 10, whatever that is. Surfer sign. Yeah, breathing into it. If you want, you can kind of kick your leg further away from your butt, but feeling that front train of fascia opening up. Well, when we did the hip lift, the hip raise, we were also opening the front. So it hasn't been entirely left out. And then release that and roll over onto your other side. And the same thing here. So taking it back and then turning in and out, so that the knee is turning in and then out and my heel is moving. And then I'm going to kick my heel a little further away from my butt and just open that up a little bit more. And then breathe it in. Come onto your back and give it a shake. Again, letting that tissue come back to a very neutral place. And since we did all that foot stuff, or sorry, all that hand stuff, I think we're going to do some foot stuff. So I'm going to just take off my sock so you can see. So yeah, we'll have done hamstrings, quads, back body, a little bit of the front body, and we'll get our distal edges, our hands and feet. So coming into the camera, I'm going to do this with my knee is very bent, and I'm going to grab on, and I'm just going to easily circle my foot. So easy circles. You're holding onto the skin. If you've got lotion on your skin, it might be kind of slippery. This is sort of better if you don't have any lotion. And I'm just pulling away, mobilizing my foot, circling, moving around. And then I'm going to get into my calf with my hands. Our feet and our calves and our lower legs tend to be underappreciated and jammed into shoes and socks that are too tight and all that kind of stuff. So giving the tissue some movement, wakening up and feeling in to like the sole of my foot to my hand. I'm moving, I'm digging my fingers into the sole and kind of pulling out. So I'm going up the inside. You can maybe see and my toes are moving. Sometimes I see people's feet and dancers' feet especially, and it's like they are so squished up and weird and everything. I wish that as a culture we gave more time to think about how important our feet are and how, and I mean, I'm a dancer, I danced on point forever. And I have really long, weird toes, but I also have spent a lot of time barefoot. We want to be able to spread out our toes. I think Irene Dowd has an exercise called feet like hands, where she wants to mobilize all your toes in different ways so that you can have a lot more freedom in there. So thinking of that, thinking of you can get into the space between your toes, if they're all jammed together, separate them out. Gyrokinesis also has a lot of foot things where you're moving your toes around. So doing that so that you have some freedom. Let's shake out that leg and switch it to the other side. So starting with the cuff. All of this you could take much longer with. Circling the foot, pulling the fascia away. Skin and fascia. Yeah, as I do this, there's a whole bunch of snap, crackle, pop going on. And I can feel it actually up the front of my tibialis anterior. Is that right? Yeah, this big muscle up the front of my shin. And then getting into the tissue. Yeah, I'm kind of like, it's almost like I'm kneading a loaf of bread, like the bread that needs to rise, right? You need to knead it a bunch and then you leave it to rise. So I'm doing the kneading so that that tissue can all fluff back up again. And then going into my foot, same thing. And the same kind of pulling in that midline of my foot, getting some movement in there. And then moving out towards my toes, freeing up the toes, individual toes. So they're not just one glob of foot all stuck together. And then just let that go and shake it out. Oh, we all need touch, right? Especially during this pandemic. More touch, more connection. Yeah, so let's come back up and feel those feet that we've just moved around from a standing position. Water yourself if you need to. So yeah, take your time, Leslie. If you want to stay down on the floor, go for it. Thinking of our feet like cat paws and letting them kind of scrabble the ground. Most animal analogies are pretty good. So you're kind of squeezing with your toes and think of doming up your instep, letting your weight move forward and backward. Almost like if you had a towel under your foot, you're trying to grab it. One of the most articulate feet people that I know, well, that's not entirely true, talented with her feet is my pole teacher, Nicole Duquette. She can pick up a towel and throw it across her shoulder into her hand with her feet. Yeah. So let's also do this. And this is for the fascia on your feet. You're just going to kind of scooch along the floor. Like you can hear, I'm making a sound, but I'm digging my foot in. I can scooch back, chugging along, waking up the sole of the foot. So there's this neuro pathway from your brain down to your feet. We're waking up that connection. You could just rub your foot on the floor to do it also, which like probably you won't have a lot of tolerance for doing it too much because our feet aren't used to having so much actual sensation. Good. And then let's do some feet and hands together. So yeah, mobilizing feet and hands. As you're mobilizing feet and hands, considering that this is also moving into shoulders and hips and even into spine, like one whole body. If I move something, something else is happening. And for me, I then become very aware of my tongue and throat and neck and jaw. So if you're holding tension up there, yeah, let that start to release and let go. Yeah, just shake it all out. Let it go. Yes, feeling the space in your body. And let's come back to where we were in the beginning, just stretching into those two sides, lengthening one side and lengthening the other. Opening up into the space around you. Just feeling what that feels like now compared to at the beginning. And shake that out and let it go. And we're going to come together for this final moment of, you can sit down if you want to. And we're going to do a tongue exercise. So for inside our heads and for some freedom in there, this tongue exercise I learned with Mary Abrams, who is a continuum teacher, and you can sit anywhere just so that you find a comfortable seat. And then I just saw Perry Nicholson doing it, who is my favorite internet teacher at the moment. So what we're going to do, the Perry Nicholson way is kind of faster. We're going to go with the more slowed down Mary Abrams way. You're going to take your tongue inside your mouth and you're just going to orbit around maybe 2 or 3 times one way, 2 or 3 times the other. You're also going to hum and make a humming sound. So it may become interesting to spend more time somewhere. Don't think that you're trying to make these number of times around. You're just on an exploration. So it's like this. Breathe as naturally or as much as you need to. Naturally, you can always come into resting breaths. And if it feels exhausting to hum, let it go or just do it for a second. Taking rests whenever you need them. Letting your face free up around that. And then if you get tired, if your tongue gets tired, really it can be kind of exhausting to do that. So then we'll just come into a closed eyes position and small movement from side to side with your head. Softening into yourself. Bringing your awareness into the sensation of just turning your head from side to side with your eyes closed. For me, that always brings on my back body. I always feel like, oh, I just need to back up a little bit as I'm here. Could become very small in your movement. Or if it feels good to go big, go big. Yeah, so as we start to do different patterning for our bodies, you may find that you need to drink more water and or just make sure you drink a lot of water because we've moved all the stuff that you want to have it be able to move. You also may need to go to the bathroom more. You may need to pee more, poop more, whatever. But like once we start to free stuff up, there's movement. Where there's movement, there's movement. So I'm going to stop recording. TV Land, like and subscribe. Everybody else, hang out.